Hi, this is ChrisLab3VideoWebD3201 from WebD3201, professor being Muath, and this is my Lab 3 video. So first I just wanted to show an example of signing in on my website as an administrator. I have the flash message there that works properly now. I fixed that. And I just want to show that as I'm logged in as an administrator, you can go to the sales agent registration page, you can go to the client registration page, and the change password page. Now I want to show that on the client registration page we have logos here, and if I were to add my favorite character, and add it as agent 3, submit. Successfully added the client, flash message shows up, and I can go to page 2, and the logo is now working there because I just didn't add logos for these two. So I can add one through the page and it updates there properly. Now, after showing the logo, the next thing that I want to do is sign up, and I want to log in as a sales agent. Flash message shows, and the next thing I want to do is show that I can go to client registration, and since I am logged in as agent 3, I'm able to see the new Yoda client that I created. And if I sign out here and quickly go in the other agent, I can go to client registration, and the Yoda character is not there because he is not a client of this agent. So now I'd like to show that I guess if I log in as an administrator, I can change a password. So I can change my own password and submit. Successfully updated. And now I can show that I can sign back in with that new password. Logged in successfully. Flash message shows. And yeah, so my nav bar is properly dynamic now. When I'm logged in as an agent, I am unable, well, as an admin, I can register an agent, a client, and when I register a client, I can choose the specific agent that I want to register them under. And more importantly, when I'm signed in as an agent, I'm able to see the calls page, and I can select a client, create a description, pick a random date, submit, successfully enter the call, flash message disappears, and that call has now been added there. So that's the website. So the next thing I would like to show is some of the code behind it that I had to do following the DC Connect videos and a tiny bit of extra research. So I'm just going to go with the pages that are open in order. So my salespeople.php. For Lab 3, I have a display form that takes the form user array, which is just right up here. It takes these elements that are set up, passes them in as this parameter, this array parameter, and then my display form function here uses this if block here to check for whether or not there's a page set, and if so, it will get it from the URL and store it into the page variable. And then this display table function with this amount here, these parameters will display the table that you can actually see when you see the display table, that displays the information from the tables that are stored. So this shows the ID key from the table as the value ID in the displayed table, and so on and so forth here. So that's for salespeople. So for clients.php, the beginning of our Lab3 changes on this document is here at line 78, where we have the file handling. So if there is an error code, then there will be an error message appended to the error variable, problem uploading your file. Otherwise, else if, as long as the file is one of these types, or in other words, if it's not one of these types here, then there's an error message that will be appended. Else if the size is too big, which is defined as a constant in the constants.php, which I'll show later, then the error message is appended, and appended using text version of the max file size that I've chosen. So then else, there's the logo path stored here and appended to the email address of the client that is being recorded as having is being recorded, and then that file will then be moved from the temporary location to the stored logo path with its new file name. Now, if the sales agent has not been selected in the drop-down menu, then you'll get an error message appended here saying you must select the sales agent. And if the error message is not empty, then it will set that into the flash message, whatever like the full error message is that's been accumulated. Else, assuming everything's okay, if the session is set and logged in as a agent, then the sales ID will be set to the ID of the logged in agent here. And that means that this insert client function will then run using these parameters and set the flash message saying that we've successfully added the client, clear the variables to empty, and redirect the page to display the flash message. So this is the form client array of arrays, and this is the section that got changed for Lab3, so where we add the type file for the upload file name, and then we have our display form using that array of arrays up there, and this is basically the same as the salespeople.php. So next we have calls.php. This is pretty much the exact same thing again, the display form using the array of array. That's just right up there. And we are going to get the calls for the logged in agent and display the correct number of calls per table page by passing it into the call select all function, which I'll show when we get to the functions page. And then here we have our constants. There's two new constants for Lab3. There's the max file sizes. We have the numeric version and then the text version that was used earlier. In db.php, we have some new changes for Lab3. We have our user select all function, and that is basically just the prepare statement for user select all, and then we have the function. Oops, we have the function that will run that prepared statement. What else do I want to talk about on this page? We have admin and agent version prepared statement for clients, and other than that, we have our call count, gets number of calls based on sales agent that we had to create. And then most importantly here, actually, functions for changing passwords I wanted to talk about. So this is the password update prepare statement called password update. And then we have the function password update that takes the password and then also the user ID, creates the connection, and then PG execute as a return the password update prepared statement to update to the new password. And then here in the header, there's not a whole lot of changes, just one Lab3 change here, adds a change password link for all users logged in. So it doesn't matter, as long as an agent or an admin is logged in, you will see the link to the left in Google Chrome showing that you can change passwords. So in the functions.php file, the standout mention for me here is the display form function. For Lab3, I had to add this line, the ENC type equals multi-part form data, and this was so that I could support file uploading for this lab. Beyond that, I have a Lab3 change here, and it's basically just the input for the file upload for the form, and then for the form function. So next up here we have the display table function for Lab3. So this is function display table and the appropriate parameters that I needed for that, including page, an agent count, client select all, but these are just names. They actually are used to display the contents of the clients, agents, and calls tables, and page numbers for each associated one. So this is just the table creation. This is creating the column headers here. And then this is where we loop through all of the clients, agents, or calls. And for each client, call, agent, etc., get associated information. If key is the logo path, we're creating an image tag to hold the value and then display the value as a string. And this is the last bit of code here in functions.php that covers the pagination navigation bar. And this is where we loop through the table's numbers of pages and create a new link page in the nav bar. And that is the end of our functions. I'm trying to speed this up. Functions.php, users.sql. So the change here, I had to create a calls table, or was that even for Lab3? I'm losing track now. No, that's not for Lab3, is it? No, that's for Lab2. Change password, sorry, is the final document I have to go through. And for change password, this entire thing is new for Lab3, so this is important. Now, if you're not logged in, of course, we get redirected to sign in. Otherwise, if we're here on a get request method, then change password fields, password 1 and 2 obviously should be blank because it's our first time entering the page. Else, if it's posted, we're going to trim the inputs. And now we're going to do some validation. So if it's not set or if it's empty, error message saying you must enter a password. If it's below the minimum password length, we'll get an error message saying constant minimum password length. It must be at least that long. And then we're going to compare the two, make sure that they are the same. And if they're not the same, we have an error message that's appropriate for that. Finally, we set that flash message, do the redirect for the flash message to show, excuse me. And finally, if everything's okay, updates the logged in user's password. So whoever is logged in, it will be their password that gets updated with the new successful password. So redirect to show flash message. This is the array of array for the form password that gets passed into display form function here. And that is the end of my Chris Benjamin's Lab3 video. Thank you very much for the extra time to work on this. It was very time consuming, and my original lab had a lot of trouble fixing, so I ended up having to basically just redo everything. But I'm glad that I managed to do so. Thanks so much.